Welcome to MojoPlays, and today we're taking a look at our list of the 10 worst PlayStation 5 games. Look, we know we're only a few years into the PlayStation 5's life cycle, but there has still been a large handful of bad games released for the Seto Kaiba-looking console. Have you tried any of these for yourself? I know I have. Let us know down in the comments.
Before we begin, we publish new content all week long, so be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos.
Dungeons & Dragons Dark Alliance. Bearing the same subtitle as the Baldur's Gate spin-offs, Dungeons & Dragons Dark Alliance should have been a simple cash-in, and yet it flopped almost as hard as the first D&D movie. The gameplay is unbearably mundane and fails to capture what Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance did so well. As for the story, it's nothing that we would expect from a game based on the legendary tabletop RPG, especially when we've had games like Neverwinter Nights. Do we even mention the sheer number of bugs and glitches that were at launch? New Tales from the Borderlands.
I made it very clear that I will not condone experimenting on live animals on this ship.
It was in that memo she sent out.
It was a mission statement.
Well, now that we've got that straightened out.
The first red flag New Tales gave off was that Gearbox Software themselves were making the title, not, those who worked on the original game. Despite the veterans being somewhat involved, they were only brought in to teach Gearbox how to write an interactive story with choices, and the results were rather upsetting. The plot meanders around, characters say some of the dumbest and most pointless things that add nothing to the moment at hand, and the comedy is beyond cringe-inducing. But the biggest offender is what little interactivity there really is. Most of the time, you'll simply be tasked to click on all the things in the room and nothing else. It's barely a video game, let alone a decent one.
You, however, are not on this list. You're anonymous, unrecognized, a nobody. This is beneficial for your survival.
Godfall. Gearbox got another strike against it before New Tales was even a thing, and if you don't remember Godfall well, neither do most people. Godfall lacks whatever form of identity it could have possibly garnered, even with its overly glossy visuals. The combat holds nothing special to differentiate itself, and the only real loop is more loot, more gear, more weapons, rinse and repeat. It has nothing going for itself, and the fact that you can buy it just to experience the endgame content side of it shows that there was no effort put into the main game. Our endgame is good enough to buy our product? When has that ever been a valid case to ask for money from your customers? When? EFootball 2022. It's kind of funny. When publishers choose to take time with their games and put annual series on ice for a few years, they usually have better odds at delivering something better later down the road. But eFootball 2022, which was the next entry for Konami's Pro Evolution Soccer series, was somehow worse than PES 2019. And the latest iteration is no different. eFootball 2022 launched in such a horrid state with bugs and glitches abound that it was quickly deemed one of the worst games of 2021. And even 2 years later, nothing has been fixed! The player count fluctuates in low numbers, and Lionel Messi has been replaced by a group of other football players on the cover so that everyone can share the game's shame.
Definitely not one of his best. Ball's gone out of play.
Grey Hill Incident.
The government, they know everything. They knew the invasion was happening here.
We were trying to avoid obviously bad games for this list, but we just couldn't help ourselves on this one, since the game is asking for $25 to $30. It looked like it could have been a fun game, with its cheesy dialogue and corny retro sci-fi aesthetic, which you would expect from most comedy horror works. However, the gross visuals wind up making navigation a pain, and the controls in general are frustrating to endure. And with the campaign only lasting about 80 to 90 minutes with an anticlimactic finish, we have to ask ourselves, what's our $25 going towards? Destruction AllStars. So, the game wasn't pretty at launch, alright? There's still time to fix it. And they did, back in June 2022. So, how does this game fare after being reworked and rebalanced, considering its initial launch painted it as a ludicrously enjoyable Twisted Metal clone? In the commentator's favorite, frequently annoying words that still haunt me to this day, "It's gonna take more than that to catch up with the opposition's scores today." The story mode still demands you pay premium currency, per campaign by the way. Only 3 maps exist in the game's core mode, and the trophies are still bugged. How are the trophies at least not fixed? To make matters worse, there has been zero support from the developers, and we are at a point with the game now where there is absolutely nobody playing this game. Not even the bots are playing it. They tried adding bots to fill in the lobbies, it doesn't even function anymore. Unless you can find some hardcore fans who plan to go down with the ship, there is no reason for you to spend the $20 on getting Destruction AllStars. LEGO Brawls. So, here we have a free-to-play mobile game, launching on consoles long after its debut, and usually the story goes with simply porting the game over, touching up the visuals, and, keeping the free-to-play model intact. For some reason, LEGO Brawls wanted you to fork over $50 whole for the damn thing. Do you get anything in exchange for this sudden price hike? Like exclusive skins, characters, maps, modes, anything at all? Nope! Just the same confusing platformer fighter game mess that holds no replay value whatsoever, no satisfaction in playing the game in general. Sure, the game only costs $20 now, but does that magically make a lazy package more valuable? No, not in the slightest. Ballon Wonderworld. Look, no one seems to understand the might and magic behind this game, okay? Ballon Wonderworld is utilizing so much power from your PlayStation 5 that even it can't handle it. It cannot fathom any moves beyond jumping and a singular costume ability that replaces your jumps. It cannot comprehend that your controller features more than 2 buttons. The power is so great, so magnificent, so powerful, that it will de-render objects and characters when you get too close to it and scramble up the placement of levels in the hub world. I mean, how else can you explain this design, or its mere existence, except for the fact that it just might be one of gaming's new and biggest disgraces. The Lord of the Rings Gollum.
Tomorrow, my dear, tomorrow we find something nice.
There is nothing precious about this walking disaster outside of the story we get to tell about our time with this game. For starters, the game crashed 11 times on us within our first hour of the game before we uninstalled it. We were later told, during the review process, that hair physics had a hand in the frequent crashes, thus prompting its eventual removal around launch. And to this day, I have yet to see it pop back up in the settings options, by the way. Additionally, we were able to replicate bugs and glitches from our initial playthrough, including one in the first chapter where you can basically turn the orcs into your bros, see some fake lighting, and even step outside of the boundary to see the entire skybox and some dev assets not too far from the cave. And all of this was within the first chapter. There's 10 chapters in this game, man. And don't get us started on the sheer monotony of just exploring the half-baked environments, collecting tags mindlessly, bird breeding, the ungodly climbing mechanics. Oh, and that one time where Gollum nearly strangles the blind elf girl he's been crushing on. Just throw this back into the fiery pits of Mordor, okay? Let's never look back. Babylon's Fall. Well, this was beyond a monumental failure. Platinum Games has been somewhat hit or miss with most of their titles over the last several years, and this was the worst, due to the sheer greed and laziness on display. Levels consist primarily of empty hallways, ranks gave nothing of value outside of personal satisfaction, and the entire loop was bogged down by too many currencies and materials to collect. Also, why on earth is a game like this reusing assets from Final Fantasy XIV so blatantly? Player count and sales were so abysmal that Square Enix, in all of their live services the future loving glory, they pulled the plug and had physical copies destroyed 6 months after launch. Babylon's Fall was officially shut down on February 27th, 2023, and the world is all the better for it.
Check out these other great clips from MojoPlays, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos.